Konnichiwa.
Welcome to the Jandals in Japan podcast.
Kia ora, Catherine.
Konnichiwa, Jane.
So, Catherine, you're just back from New Zealand, and
Yes.
I've been here in Japan through this whole unrest that has been going on in the world. What was
Yes.
it like being back in New Zealand
New
during that
Zealand
time?
seemed like everything was just going along hunky-dory.
Hmm.
Although I have to say, when I went to fill up the tank with my mum's car, yes, $3.15 was a bit of a shock.
Yikes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it is now, a week later, but maybe it's okay. I'm not sure. But it was a bit of a shock, but it's to be expected because of what's going on. But I've never seen it at that rate.
No, I don't
But other than that, I think people are out eating and drinking as usual. We went to a restaurant with my friend in Auckland, and it was, well, several of them, and it was buoyant. People were spending, having fun. I don't think it's on the day-to-day radar. It's on the bigger radar of companies. They're thinking about these things, but average people are out there doing things.
Right.
And Japan's pretty much the same, don't you think?
Yeah, there was a bit of a panic happening when the old petrol price jumped 20 yen in one day,
Ooh,
which is nearly the equivalent of
a
20
lot.
cents in New Zealand dollars these days.
Yeah.
And so for most Japanese people, that was nightmare kind of stuff, and everybody rushed to the petrol station to fill up before it went even higher. But it's already dropped back. So
It's amazing,
it's
isn't
dropped
it?
back to what it was before. And I think we're going to be fine.
Well, I think Japan's new Prime Minister, Takaichi, she's just brought out the reserves. The oil reserves are the first time it's come out. They've been released since the last oil crisis,
Which was in the 70s or something, is that
70s or
right?
something. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Japan's ready for these things. And so I think people coming here, don't you think, Jane, they can just expect daily life as usual rather than it being too extreme? Maybe there's a little less buses on the routes, a little bit less taxis, maybe, but not really significantly that I've found since getting back.
I think it's actually come back to normal quicker than I
Right.
anticipated. And apparently there are tankers ready to dock any day now with loads of fresh petroleum on board.
Exactly.
So, yep. So
Yep.
it
And
should be
taking
okay.
another route too. They're 100 days out from now. Apparently, it takes 100 days to go through the Suez Canal round Africa and come into Japan. They've worked it out already, and they're already trying to action that.
Oh,
So
excellent. There you go.
Japan is well planned, and you can always rely on Japan to have everything going very, very well.
Very
So,
good. Yeah,
yeah,
so yeah, that's don't need to worry about that if you're coming into Japan. And if you're in Japan, yeah, I think we'll be okay.
exactly.
Not
Well,
famous
let's get
last words.
into introducing the episode. Today's episode on Jandals in Japan, we are joined by Glenn Argyle. He's a proud Southlander.
Yay,
How's that,
representing.
Jane? Born and raised in Invercargill, educated at the University of Otago. He's the CEO of Baxter Japan. It's a leading global pharmaceutical company. Like many of us, he came to Japan only intending to be here for a few years, and here it is, nearly 30 years later. Japan has a way of capturing your heart and like this. He's built an impressive career. He's a well-respected leader, and it's something that I think he's been able to keep his Kiwi roots and bring a distinct Kiwi flavour to his leadership. It's not a very common path that we see here, but we're really glad to bring Glenn's secrets of building trust, leading teams, and growing a career in Japan long term.
Alrighty, let's hear it from Glenn. Kia ora, Glenn. Welcome to the Jandals in Japan podcast. Great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
We like to start with a warm-up question. And for you, our question today is, we know you have a deep experience in all things pharma in Japan. Tell us one of your favorite healthcare items from the store that anyone can buy. Japanese
Ooh,
healthcare item. Take a moment if you need to think.
no. Having been in Japan for a very long time, I would have to say it's masks.
Ah,
I ended up with hay fever after moving to Japan, and particularly in Tokyo, a huge amount of pollen in the air. And so I actually got used to wearing masks even before COVID. So it's probably the thing that I most grateful for living here in Tokyo.
Right. And that you can wear one and nobody bats an eyelid, right? That
No,
they
that's
can
right.
just assume you have hay fever or something. Yeah.
Exactly. I think in Japan, people are so used to living in such a close environment. People just accept that you're trying to either take care of themselves or protect you at the same time. And that's one of the reasons they're a really good thing. And yeah, very happy to wear one.
Very good. How about you, Catherine?
Oh, yes. Well, I was thinking about this as you were talking, and I really like the kaido, the hand
Oh, yes.
warmers.
Pocket
Yes.
warmers, yes.
I, in summertime, I just don't go near them, obviously, but in winter, they're just so great stuck in your pocket to warm up your hands if you don't have gloves on, or you need extra warming, or you've got them out of your pockets, even sitting in a position like we are now and holding onto them if you're feeling a bit chilly. So I don't even know what the content is inside of these things, but when you open the packet and you tap them a bit, the heat comes through. It's like almost lying on,
Isn't
I
it
don't
iron
know.
sand or something
Is
like
it
that?
iron
Isn't it?
sand? Is
Yes.
that what it
Yeah.
is? Yeah, so they're really great, especially since personal moment, I cut my finger about 2.5 years ago, my index finger, and some of the sensitivity has gone from it. But
Oh,
having those is really great because it just goes cold. So I love those Kairo for me. Yeah, and
Yes.
they're everywhere, like now everywhere, different
Yeah, you can buy them
sizes.
anywhere. That's
Buy
right.
them for putting in your shoes to warm up your feet, all sorts
yes.
of things. Stick them on your back if you get cold in your back. They're
Yep.
great. I love those.
Yep.
Jane, what about you?
I was
What's
going to
your
say
go-to?
the old kaido were getting a big use yesterday at the old baseball. All the kids have one in their back pocket because when you're standing on the
Yes.
field, your hand's getting cold. So while you're waiting for the next batter to come up, you got your hand in your back pocket warming up your hand so you can throw the ball. It's pretty rough out there. So my one would be the Shippu, good old Shippu.
Ah,
Those
yeah.
things you stick on when you've hurt your muscles and it just delivers some kind of medicine to the sore area. And quite often my kids would come home from kindergarten with them on because it's the go-to, instead of a band-aid that gets put on if you fall down and you get a bit of a boo-boo or a bump, they put them on and the kids feel like they've been treated. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? So they come with them stuck on their heads and all sorts of things. So they also have ones for fever, cool ones that you stick on your forehead to help take your fever down. They're very, very good. So lots of lovely things like that here in Japan. Aren't we lucky?
Yeah, I don't use those at all, I have to say. Not
The
even,
ones,
Oh,
no, no,
have you got the ones with medicine in them that delivers the
no.
medicine right to the
yes.
pain
Yeah.
area in your body, wherever? That's really
They
good.
are very, very good. If you've been working very long hours and you're bent over a PC like this all day, I really recommend it.
Okay, well, give me a brand that I can go and look for later, Jane, offline, and I will
Ah,
try them out
I'll
if I've
bring
got
some
some
for
aches
you
and
for your
pains.
birthday or something, Catherine. There you go.
But Glenn
Yeah.
Argyle, would love to welcome you to Jandals in Japan officially. And we know that you were born, and I'm still waiting for the rolling R in your accent. You were born down out in
Invercargill.
Invercargill. Whoa, and
Yes.
educated at Otago University. And I think you first came to Osaka, so I'm waiting to hear some Osaka Ben dialect as well. But you plan to just stay for a few years, and here you are now after more than, I would say, 28 years as CEO of Baxter Japan, hence our pharmaceutical lineup that we did for
Yes.
the warm up. We're really keen to talk to you today about what it takes to be a Kiwi in leadership in one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in Japan. And well, it's not very common. So we're really curious to know about your secrets for success as a Kiwi leader here. So let's get into it. But I've got one first question, which is what we ask many, many people who come on the show. But for many listeners who have not met you,
Yes.
how do you introduce yourself today? Do you talk about being a Kiwi? Do you talk about being a long-term Japan resident? Do you even bring in some of that Southern Kiwi to make people really curious? How do you introduce yourself?
I do very proudly say that I'm still a Kiwi, and it's one of those things that pretty much every time I'm in any meeting, I'm always the only Kiwi in the room, if I'm lucky. But probably when I introduce myself to normally, I will just say that my job is basically like a janitor, and all I do is go around cleaning up issues on aisle 9 or something like that.
Oh,
Issues
I
on
did not
aisle
think you were going to
nine.
say that. Do people ask you though, where are you from originally? I get that all the
Yes,
time. Do
people
you
ask
get
me
that?
all the time, and that your comment about the accent, I've been placed all over the world because my accent has very much disappeared. I don't roll my R's unless I've been talking with a Kiwi or been down south for, a day or two, and then it comes back. And when I first started, in Japan as well, I did live in Osaka, and I started with the Osaka sound a little bit, things like mokarimaka,
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
are you making lots of money?
Yes, that's a good
Very.
one. That's very important. Yes.
When I first came to Tokyo, I would get onto the elevator at work, and I would say to people, "Kyo wa nukui ya na," and nukui
Yeah.
means
Yeah.
warm,
Mm.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's not standard Japanese.
No.
And so I had some people look at me and say, "What does nukui mean?"
Mm.
And they were Japanese, so I had to very quickly get rid of some of my colloquial Japanese, just as I got rid of my colloquial English. I'm not a native speaker anymore in English. People can't place me because I don't use colloquialisms.
All right. If you had to think of something Kiwi, very Kiwi right now, what would it be?
Uh,
We're timing
Kia
how long?
kaha.
Huh?
Kia kaha.
Kia kaha.
Kia
Yes.
kaha.
Mm.
Fantastic.
I really love that. It's kind of like almost one of my favorite words in Japanese, which is gambaro, which
Mm.
is let's do our best. And I think that the kia kaha to me is kind of that from a Kiwi perspective.
Amazing. So when you landed in Osaka, I think that was your first place after leaving New Zealand. You were going to stay for only 2 or 3 years, I believe, from
Yes,
what I've
that's
heard
right.
from you say before. So what did you find there that was, apart from the language, which made you very curious, something that may have been felt quite familiar about Osaka compared to New Zealand, and then otherwise maybe something you thought, oh my goodness, what am I doing here? Maybe that was the language.
Yeah, yeah. The difficult thing when I first arrived, and then I'll go to the positives which made me stay. I was walking in the underground, the subway in Osaka, and at that stage, I was still the tallest person there, and so there's so many people. It was just a sea of heads bobbing up and down in front of me. And it made me feel seasick initially. Just there were so
Wow.
many people, and Osaka City had the population of New Zealand, and Osaka Prefecture is like 3 times at that stage the
Mm.
population of New Zealand. And I was struggling to get my mind around how do you feed these people, the logistics of all of this, how does this work? But the thing that really excited me, though, oppositely, was the history of the people themselves. Japanese people are very kind and caring. They want to share their culture, and they have a wonderful culture to share. And in Osaka, you're very close to Nara and to Kyoto, which has that history part. Nara in itself is a lot of greenery, lots of beautiful forestry. I went to the fireflies out in the mountains between Osaka, Wakayama, and Nara, and just absolutely magical. All of these little lights just flying around in front of you, in front of the ponds. You're seeing the reflection of those lights on the ponds. Just something that you wouldn't see except in a glowworm cave in New Zealand, but you're out in the forest, and it was just like something out of a Ghibli film. It's an amazing country.
It certainly is. And so you mentioned that feeling of overwhelm, maybe, with being
Yes.
surrounded by the sea of people. I've certainly felt that in certain stations in Tokyo when you're just like you've come from Southland potentially or Otago, where that
Yes.
just definitely never happens. So, can you tell us about one of those what have I got myself into moments after arriving in Japan?
When I first arrived, I couldn't speak Japanese, and at that stage, there was no Google. Everything was paper dictionary. This was
Really?
back in 1997. I could easily go several months without seeing a Western face. I have a Kiwi sense of humor, and sometimes that could be very dry. And I would make some dry jokes, and people would take me extremely seriously. So I learned very quickly that don't be dry with your humor. Make it very much more open and direct. And I had to change my sense of humor. And in Japan, people don't talk with their hands. And I saw people watching my hands as I talked.
Right.
And
Ah,
you could see that some people were pulling back. And at that time, there was still a lot more corporal type punishment in Japanese schools and at city halls. You could see people getting very angry and animated. And so big movements like this, I'm not sure if that was connected or not, but I learned to keep my hands down. I learned to not move my head as much and uh, change how I used my facial expressions and so on as well. Because for a good 7 or 8 years in every job that I was in, I was the only foreigner in the companies that I was in. And to be successful to communicate body language and jokes and so on, it's just part of your communication. You can show yourself, just change the style in which you express it.
very interesting to hear that, Catherine. Have you ever thought about using too many gestures and intimidating other
Mm.
people or something potentially?
It's true, you're always looking at other people and noticing what they're doing with their gestures, but hardly ever reflect it back on yourself and what you're doing. But I know as lawyers, we were often taught when you're nervous or you're in front of the judge, don't use hand movements. Like grab the desk in front of you. So I'm sort of doing this on the desk I'm at now, and that would center you and also it wouldn't be distracting. So my mind just went back to court days and thinking that that is actually quite an important thing is to not use too many hand gestures. I don't know what it's like these days because a lot of people say use some gestures, but if you stop and watch YouTube videos or something on Instagram, you are kind of drawn into the hand movements, I have to say. So that's a really great comment.
I think there's a difference between being in a speaking position and on stage because you need to show movement.
Mm,
And senior Japanese executives will use their hands when there's a camera in front of them. And
yes.
then the moment the pictures or so on it disappears, they stop. It is an important thing to be able to show movement, and it definitely looks much better when you're taking a video or
Yeah.
and
Often
so
they
on to
use a
be.
wide angle, don't they? Like
Yes,
open arms, which is
that's
actually
exactly right.
not the same as being right in front of somebody.
That's
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 very
exactly right.
interesting. I love that. Yeah, so you mentioned you were the only person, and I mean, a lot of people now listening would say, well, I'm the only person in my company as well. But they've got plenty of foreigners around them in the community. But you would have found that interesting, quite a change, I would say, to where you were, right? Obviously, New Zealand's different. So, how did you cope with that? And what were the companies you were in before Baxter?
When I first arrived, I came here on the JET program and taught English at junior high schools in Osaka. And I would go rotate through three schools within Yale City every 6 months. I stayed doing that job for 3 years, and then I joined a company called Dai Nippon Pharmaceuticals.
Right.
By that stage, I'd gotten grade two Japanese, and I was pretty close to grade one. So, but when I started at Dai Nippon, I was reading Japanese clinical research documents, protocols, and so on. And we were conducting clinical studies in the US and in the EU. And so needed to read through those reports, confirm the content between the both. And then I was, as the only foreigner in the company, I was working on their business development, the global CEO when he was traveling. I was taking care of preparations for that. And then the communications team would come and ask me for things that they wanted done in English and production problems. And I just ended up getting pulled into a huge variety of different types of work, which was absolutely fantastic when I think back now. And, the team there was very open, in their meetings, they would bring problems to the meeting and ask for advice from the other people. And so it wasn't like there were a couple of like the senior executive meetings where, yes, there'd been a lot of nemawashi, which is basically getting to agreement prior to the meeting. But in the general day-to-day project management types of discussions, everything was very open. People were extremely collaborative. And I didn't know that that wasn't normal until we were acquired by another company, which was a much more traditional company, which was called Sumitomo. And then it was a change in corporate culture at that stage. And that made a huge difference to my work style and, the scope of what I was doing. So some of the leaders from Dai Nippon were going out to set up a clinical research organization, as I mentioned earlier, to do clinical studies for pharma companies. So I joined them, and over the next 18 months, we built it up to about 130 people. And then the financial crisis hit. The investors wanted their money back. And so we had to sell out that core business. And I moved to a company called Takeda, which was Japan's largest pharmaceutical company. And this was at a stage where they were just starting to globalize. I was the first foreign hire in the global headquarters, working with the global CEO for most of the time that I was there with them. And when I was joining, they were just starting to move from the local country heads around the world from being basically a finance secondee to be a local hire general manager. And then the functions, nothing was globalized. So I was going through that globalization of the functions, the communications and the branding and so on for the organization was not consistent across the company either. At that stage, we did the largest ever Japanese acquisition overseas. It was, I think, about 9.8 billion or something of a Japanese pharmaceutical company. And I got put onto that on my first day in the office. So didn't get to go home for basically the next 10 days until the announcement. I would be going home at about 2 or 3 in the morning after phone calls to have a shower, change clothes, and come back on the first train to start more. So it was a very intense start when I was at Takeda. And then after the announcement, immediately on the plane to go around the world with the global CEO, we did investor relations meetings and met with the company that we just announced the acquisition with.
Goodness me. You've jumped from the JET program into the pharmaceutical industry, and then somehow
Yes.
later you find yourself doing this kind of stuff. This is an amazing story.
Yeah, I was extremely lucky. Takeda was my last Japanese company, though. I'd been able to achieve a huge amount with them, and I very much enjoyed that. Then I started working there was a US company which reached out, which wanted me to start their Japan CRO operations. So I built that up. I was employee number 12, together with 5 other people on the same day. But we grew that to 300 people in the next 3 years. What we were able to do was we were the first global company to get past 200 organically without any acquisitions and get to scale, which
Yeah.
I was very proud of.
Well, that's a great explanation. I imagine you didn't expect any of this to unfold once you arrived in Japan. And is it these work roles that have kept you here, or you built your family alongside that have kept you staying in Japan? I mean, why have you not gone back to New Zealand?
Yeah.
Why would you,
Um,
perhaps? But tell us about
no,
that. I mean, you sounds like you met somebody along the way as well and built your family here.
I mean, there's been multiple things. There is family components, but at the same time, I have family in New Zealand, and it's so I do like to get back as often as I can. I try to have my parents come over as much as I can, as well. But yeah, the job opportunities that I've gotten, I wouldn't get them in New Zealand. I wouldn't get them in Australia. I wouldn't get them in most of the countries around the world.
Yeah.
A lot of the global market is Europe, US, Japan was historically that major component. China now, of course, and India and the BRICS are growing. But I got to work for things with the United Nations. I got to work for things with APEC, Global Compact, World Health Organization, then acquisitions of the scale that I was talking about before. I've consistently been given these wonderful opportunities and I've gotten to work with great people. So I would love to move back to New Zealand. I've thought about it many times. I do collaborate a lot with New Zealand companies that want to come in and enter, and I've certainly tried to help other companies. I think probably because I've spent more than half of my life in Japan, people see me as a very useful bridge. And probably the most useful part that they can see me in is where I am right now, because it's very difficult to find somebody who has the language skills and also industry skills and so on that have built successful businesses in Japan.
Yeah, that's fascinating that you are helping New Zealand companies as well. They see you as a figurehead to be coming to for advice. What would you say then that Kiwis could learn from the approach that you've had, or perhaps things that you would not do again if you had the chance? How are you helping them to come into the country and also be leaders in the business that they're going to lead here?
So one of the things that, I think New Zealand businesses need to understand is that the Japanese market is huge in comparison to New Zealand. So if you're wanting to manufacture something, your capacity may well soon be overwhelmed. And if you actually do break through and then you have stockouts, lack of supply, you will very quickly find that those same places that were helping you sell out will no longer stock you because their customers want to come back for it. But if they can't continue to provide for their customers, then their customers will feel they've been betrayed, so to speak, and they will transition to another product. And Japan can become quite loyal. Once people start using a product, it becomes very sticky.
Yeah, that's
So,
scarcity, right? Not a plus. It actually turns people
yeah,
away because you haven't got
yes,
that
that's right.
consistency of supply. That's a very good comment. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, supply. What else are you teaching Kiwi businesses coming in?
Then it comes down to what is the messaging, what is the communications piece that you want to be able to provide to the market. So, who are the right partners? What's the right way to market for you? And sometimes that can be using third parties. Sometimes that can be going direct. And then it very much depends on your type of product. You also have regulations here. And Japan has a lot of very tough rules in being able to import those products. So you have to make sure that whoever you're partnering with has the right licenses to be able to do that. And then that they actually understand you and your message, because oftentimes what you think is important to you may not be what's important to the person you're partnering with. And is there really a long-term connection there that you're going to want to continue working with them through that? So Japan is a relationships-based culture. So make sure that you have the right relationships with the people, because ultimately when things go wrong in Japan, it may not be written in the contract, but there's a very strong expectation that you're going to work together in good faith in order to fix whatever problems you have.
Mm. Well, that's a good point to ask you about. Maybe there was a time when an initiative in Japan failed or nearly failed, and
Hmm.
how you recovered, because that point you're talking about there, when something doesn't go well, and how you manage it, how you manage that internal politics bit, and even yourself emotionally to carry on. Is there a story or two you've got around that? Because we love success stories, but success often comes from that stumbling. Is there something you could share there that perhaps happened along the way?
When I first started at Takeda, they would have on their slides for the CEO basically four different slides or talking points you might want to have and all of the data behind it, because pharmaceuticals is a very data-driven industry. And so it was very science-based.
Mm.
And, even today, some of the Japanese ministries have extremely complicated slides. So I was trying to move it more towards somewhat of like a McKinsey type of a style, with the title telling you what you're trying to tell everybody, so that they're listening to you rather than trying to read and understand what the heck is on that slide. and also trying to get the content on the slide down to a single point, go through more slides, but make that point much more clear. And was able to get some of the content off the slide, but the titles invariably were difficult for me to get in the early stages to, I would be told to go back to the previous titles. But as I kept going over time, it did get better. But then I would get junior staff coming in. They would be trying to do exactly what I was trying to do when I first came in. And I would say to them that, yes, let's try it. I've tried this in the past. It didn't get through, but that doesn't mean we should stop trying. Okay. So don't get upset. Don't worry about it if we can't get 100% of what you want. If we can get a little bit further, then we've made progress. About the third young person who was working under me, I think we finally got the breakthrough where, the consistent, multiple years of going at it. And we finally were able to really simplify and get things to a situation where you could appeal more to a global audience with the content that we were sharing.
Is that how you're approaching things now in that way? And what has this taught you? I mean, it's completely different and it took a long time to get there.
When I first joined Takeda, it was an extremely bureaucratic company. It's completely different now. It's a global organization. Most of the headquarters functions really run out of Boston rather than out of Japan. It was a huge transition that took place even while I was there. And cultural change is something that I've worked on at pretty much every company that I've had. And that takes years. It's the first 6 months where people are waiting for it just to go back to normal. Everybody else needs to change. I don't need to change. I understand what you're saying. That's a great idea. Go talk to this person over there, make sure that they're doing it right. But culture needs to get to that point where they start to feel like, oh, there really is a reason behind this. I really do need to be part of this. I need to drive it. It's that piece where you need to be consistent. You base that on integrities and on values and things like that, where people can really connect and they make decisions themselves based on those values. A leader cannot or should not be making every decision inside an organization. And so how do you get people to feel that they're empowered enough, that they have that flexibility to choose, other than providing them with the right values and understanding the vision? Where are we headed? Is my action going to contribute to that? And if it is, then go ahead. You don't need to come talk to me. Unless you need some money, unless you need more people, those sorts of things.
Or something's gone astray.
Come together. Let's have a chat. Maybe you can get the money. Maybe you can get those resources.
Is this the inverted pyramid way of leadership?
That's exactly the inverted pyramid.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you bringing in some sort of consciously or unconsciously a New Zealand way of thinking? Do you think it's part of what you're doing, or is it something that you've learned along the way? This allowing people, I think you are at they're coming to you when they need to, but otherwise you're empowering them to continue on and get there. And, going back to normal, you mentioned that resistance is always there. So can you tell us a bit more about that, what it looks like? Maybe there's an example that you could give us, a quick example of what it's like on a day-to-day basis, because I think this is key to your very important and sustained success in Japan as a Kiwi working here in leadership. And I think it would be an extremely good point to share a little bit deeper on for our listeners.
New Zealand is an extremely flat society. And, we also have what in Japan is called a murashakai, which is basically the village culture. You openly interact, you ask questions. It's not who your parents were, it's not how much money you've got, it's that value of what you're saying. Are you saying something that's meaningful, that's valuable, something that is supportive of building, that positive can-do nature, the Kiwi ingenuity part, willing to try something new? These are all parts of what I feel that I bring as a New Zealand into management. And so, I express that through, as you've mentioned, the inverted pyramid. For those that don't know what the inverted pyramid is, the original hierarchical pyramid has the CEO at the top, asking everybody, what can you do for me? How can you make me feel good about myself? Rather than the inverted pyramid is up the other way and the CEO is down here at the bottom, and trying to listen, what can I do for you? So that difference between what can you do for me, but what can I do for you? What's in your way? What are the barriers for you to be successful? What are the barriers for you to be able to get the best possible results for your stakeholders?
Well, between, say, a typical Japanese CEO and where a Kiwi leader is, where do you think you then fit on that spectrum? Are many people trying this inverted pyramid style in Japan with this Mura Shakai background that we know of? What do you think?
I think it's becoming actually a much more targeted style of management. I'm currently working for Baxter, but there is similar sorts of leadership, and the CEO at the moment also talks about inverted pyramid, which was something that I'd started talking about prior to him joining for my local team. The value of your people is held back if you don't give them a chance to be creative.
So, what's your crystal ball view of Japan's place in global pharma and medtech over the next 10 to 15 years?
Japan is one of the top producers of new drugs for research and development. And from that perspective, I think Japan will continue to be an outstanding place for the research side. On the drug side, the challenge that Japan has at the moment is a declining population. The population peaked at about 125, 127 million a number of years ago, and it's been declining ever since, and that rate of decline is high. Healthcare in itself, though, primarily the main costs for healthcare happen when you're a child and soon after you're born. And then you're fairly cheap for a healthcare system until you get past 60. And so as far as an overall market goes, Japan will continue to be actually a very large, consistent sized market for a good number of years yet. But at the other side of that, the amount of care that needs to be provided from the healthcare system means that the insurance system is currently under a lot of stress. I think there will be some changes sometime over the next 5, 10 years, but irrespective, when you launch a new product in Japan, the prices are some of the best prices in the world. And although you get annual price declines over that time, it's very reasonable. If you are selling over-the-counter products for nutritionals and so on like that, Japan is a country which likes quality. And unfortunately, with nutritionals, unless it's already been approved by the Japanese government in terms of what you can say for health benefits, you cannot write about the health benefits. So you need to be very careful about that. You may need some clinical data, but it's an extremely attractive market. If you pay to get that data, you can then use that to drive sales for your product. So very consistent, but high quality demands. And one of the things for when I talk about quality, it's not just the quality of the product, it's the labeling on the outside, it's the box. You know, a scratch on a box on the outside will mean it's a defect product and it will be returned to you. So just make sure that if you're going to be bringing anything into Japan, that the quality is not just the tablet or whatever's inside it, it's the whole comprehensive thing that you're providing. And that means on-time supply of the product too. We do have AI changes which are taking place here. There's a lot of AIs being built into the market. I mean, we've been using AI in terms of safety reporting well before ChatGPT came out. The pharmaceutical industry has been using AI type technologies for many, many years, particularly for drug development and so on as well. So if you have those types of technologies that could be leading as a base platform, driving research and development, Japanese pharmaceutical companies in particular may be very open to using new platforms if you can bring true innovation for them.
That's a really great point, because you've sort of got into my next question, which was actually about that. No, for Kiwis coming in here, what they should double down on and perhaps absolutely need to dial back on to succeed in Japan? I mean, you just because you've got a great innovative platform, how do you make that approachable for Japan? So, what about the Kiwis who are trying to do something like that? And it really is a great product and a platform that they'd know would succeed in Japan. How should they approach? And not necessarily limited to platforms, but that was a good example, I think.
Whether it's platforms or other products, having someone or some time in Japan is an important way to touch base, to share the product. People want to see it, touch it, feel it. Make sure that you're building this network where it may take a little bit more time than in New Zealand. In New Zealand, people, as I said earlier, are very open to new ideas, trying something. Let's just give it a go. In Japan, your customers, if they are going to give you a go, it means that they've made that choice on behalf of their customers, on behalf of the people that they value the most. And any impact from your product will impact across their portfolio of products. So they are going to take a little bit more due diligence than you might see in other countries. But once you get someone here, they're going to trust you. Just don't betray that trust. And if you're coming to enter the market, don't just leave. I've seen companies come in and then they found it too tough at that particular time and they wanted to make some sort of financial cuts. And so they do. And then 5 years later, they tried to come back and make those relationships again and people won't trust them. So it's extremely difficult to earn back that trust. I won't say it's impossible. There are definitely companies that have done it, but their secondary growth was much more slow, much more challenged than the first time.
Are there any places then that there's opportunities for collaboration that you can see readily between New Zealand and Japan? I mean, collaborating in healthcare or beyond that in other sectors when you're out and about and seeing things. Here's a spot that Kiwis could do something well with, combining what they've got with Japan and what they've got.
Certainly, the R&D that I was talking about before, New Zealand universities partnering with Japanese universities. There are a lot of US and EU universities that partner here in Japan, particularly in biotech and so on. New Zealand has some very high grade R&D, and we've had business development people taking visits down to, normally it's New Zealand and Australia at the same time, but it's making sure that you take advantage of building those relationships, whether it's with companies or with universities. The university path can also help you when you're trying to out-license, because they have academic research organizations which operate inside the universities here, which may be able to help and collaborate to connect you with partners as well here locally. So those relationships will actually help when you're trying to then move your research into the market.
I love that you've picked up on that point because I saw a global medical organization has partnered with Otago University Medical School. And I thought that was amazing, right? That they've been spotted and picked up. And so don't, think that it's not possible, that it is possible. When I saw that, I thought there's just plenty of opportunities for that to be scaled up on or thought about for combinations with Japan specifically.
One of the things about Japan is it creates long-term relationships. So you're not likely to find people here trying to take advantage of you and take away the IP to Japanese companies, in my experience, always respect IP and they'll work together with you. If they're providing you with terms that are too tough for you, then tell them and work through together with that. The negotiations are one of those things. But when you're partnering, particularly with other universities and academia, that's one of the areas where there's normally very respectful. People are certainly not going to be taking advantage, and they're open to that sort of a collaboration. R&D is a great one, but I mean, it's across the board. New Zealand has great products. It's just the price point, making sure that you can get your product landed in Japan at a price that people will be able to pay.
I think you must have seen a few other foreign leaders operating around in Japan as well as yourself, Glenn. Do you have any pitfalls to share with us for those up and coming foreign leaders coming into Japan or already coming up the ladder here?
Yes, I do. You know, I've been told a number of times in my career that I need to be more American from some of the global leaders. They want me to be more directive. And I've seen many expat leaders come into Japan and try to be very authoritative, not consulting the team members and thinking that Japan is a hierarchical type of society. They're at the top and people will just do whatever they tell them. But Japan often has different regulatory systems, different types of approaches, and they need to be built in. You know, there needs to be a translation about what your global team is telling you and how to make that seamlessly integrate with that organization. So telling your team members, you know, this is the goal that we're trying to achieve. Here is what our global standard is. How can we try to make this work as much as possible in Japan? And then working together with your team to make that possible. It takes a little bit more time, but once it's implemented, you don't need to go back and fix it again. I've seen a number of times in some other global organizations where people will come in and the team members are saying, yes, 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 we'll do it. And they're just waiting for the person to leave. And, you know, they've implemented it on paper, so to speak, but expecting it to fail. And so people haven't bought into it. And it goes back to that culture change. This person's only here for 2 or 3 years. They're here for their career.
They see right through all of the performances. Yeah.
That's right. So if you want to be successful and build a sustainable business, you need to build it in a way that it will continue to do that even when you're not there. And that means it can't be based just on you. You as a leader need everyone else to buy into that, want to believe in it, and start to act on that. And that's where it comes back to that values-based discussion.
They were excellent points, and I really loved, especially the first one you talked about, be more American, and then we're coming in with, we know Japan's hierarchical, so we can just come in from top down and that's going to work, but not knowing that actually it's not like that.
Yes.
It is, but it's not. And knowing the
Yes.
nuance of that, I think, is a super key point that you just hit on there. Don't assume what you think you know about Japan from what you've heard or read.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, we're going to head into the quick fire closing round now. The
Yep.
best decision, Glenn, that you've ever made in Japan, what was that? Coming here. No, don't say that. Yes, 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 of course. The best decision you've made in Japan.
The best decision that I've made in Japan is staying even when it was tough, not giving up too soon. Certainly in the first couple of years, there were a couple of times where I really wanted to leave. You know, the culture change was just too much. Yes, staying was the best thing, I guess.
Your favorite Japanese expression and why?
Gambaro. That's
Gambaro,
because
tying
it's,
back to the beginning there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It's the kia kaha. It's like, let's do our best. Let's try,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
let's try it. Also, but it comes from an in, doesn't it? Like
Yes,
kia
it
kaha,
does.
it's for everybody, but you've got to bring the kia kaha and the gambaro yourself too.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. And I think it's, since you're a leader here, I think it's important to say one Japanese leadership idea or practice that you would readily export back to New Zealand if
Um,
you could.
Ikigai, I think, is the best possible thing that
Right.
people can think about. It's a concept where, you know, you're not just working for the work. It's a combination of the balance of your interests. It's the combination of your soul, what drives you. It's a rather holistic way to think about it. I can't explain it fully here, but I really recommend anybody that's interested, you can look online. There's a couple of books, I think, with the title with Ikigai as well. Definitely, Ikigai is a great one.
Well, amazing. That is such a lovely note to finish up on. And to you, Glenn, congratulations. You're now a Jandal in Japan. Welcome to the
Thank you
club.
very much.
Thank you
It's been
very
my
much.
pleasure.
Well, thank you, Glenn, for sharing a new area we have not covered yet, the pharmaceutical industry in Japan.
Fantastic, right? And it just goes to prove you can be on the JET program and take up a role like this in your future. I thought that was absolutely amazing.
Isn't it amazing? I was just thinking that same thing yesterday. There are just so many opportunities here in Japan for anybody these days. I've never seen
and he's-
anything like it over these 20 plus
Yeah.
years.
And he said this is an opportunity he would not get anywhere else.
Mm.
And I mean, that's classic. So I loved that part of it. And also, his general advice for New Zealand businesses to have that supply consistency and do capacity planning as well. And I think we haven't had it called out quite as clearly as that before. And obviously in the pharmaceutical industry, that is totally important to get your trust and good faith in your relationships too.
Mm.
And also, as he was talking, on the video, we can see him moving his hands around. And I did love him talking about that too, right? That simplifying your presentation style, making sure that you're really careful about your hand gestures. And he's changed his way of presenting as a cultural change here.
Yeah, I actually really have toned down my hand gestures since I was reminded about that. And I've noticed people looking at my hands when I'm
Oh,
talking
really?
because they're like getting distracted by my hand gestures or something, or just generally being a bit too animated and scaring people. I still do
Scaring them,
that.
Jane.
Yeah, here
Whoa.
in Fukushima, I still do that. Yeah, taking that on board. So thanks for that reminder.
Indeed.
Have you had a homesick moment, or oh, if I was in New Zealand, this would be so much easier? Glenn also mentioned once you get here, don't just leave. And that reminded me that, yeah, Japan can be a tricky place to be, and it's about sticking it out. It usually leads
Yeah,
to
I would say
something
that
better.
COVID period where we were here and
Mm,
we knew we could go, but we didn't know if we could get back into Japan. That was really a time that was quite distinct in that whole Natsukashi and Koishi wanting to get back to New Zealand. But I think recently, if you get a little trip in here and there, it does help.
yes, I think that's the point, isn't it? Make sure you're having at least maybe once a year, if you can afford it, a trip back to New Zealand helps you to enjoy both places, right?
Yeah, and joining the New Zealand community here in Japan, listening to this podcast, finding the people who have been speaking on this podcast who are based here, connect with them, talk with
Yeah.
them. I mean, your community can build from there, and it only takes a little bit of a chin wag and a beer and a pie, perhaps, and you're back feeling a little bit more centered and happy and in control, and that's it really. So, encourage everybody to get over your homesickness with a little bit more of Jandals in Japan and how we can
Yeah,
help
tune
you
into
here.
Jandals in Japan, cure your homesickness, and live to fight another day here in Japan, so to speak,
Exactly.
when you're having a tough time. Alrighty, more Jandals coming soon.
Thank you.
See you again soon.
Bye.
Mata ne.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you check out our guests' links in the show notes.
This podcast is brought to you today by Catherine O'Connell Law and Pod Launch with Jane. If you have a great story you think should be on the show, come and find us on LinkedIn or Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.
Mata ne!